This is Jeff Evely, Ops Sgt-Maj for Veterans for Freedom. Back with you now. I have Dana Metcalf, Callsign Raven here. We were scheduled to do a podcast there earlier today, but anyway, something came up and we weren't able to reschedule in time for the live stream. So I went ahead and bashed on, and we showed some clips from some Dana's activism there in Newfoundland. But we have an update here that we wanted to share with you, and we're just going to go into it here in a minute. But Dana, I'll let you cue it up. What's the latest here on coming out of Canada Marches?
Oh my God, Canada Marches is amazing. They're about 100 kilometers away from the Port of Basque Ferry. The Energy's really, really excited to get on the mainland. I think they've kissed their cod and met their friends, and they've woken up everybody here. We've had some controversy. Of course, there's always controversy with the sleepyheads and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's been incredibly positive. We've had people that we didn't even realize in some communities that had a large presence of people that were aware. There was a lot of people with motions, there was lots of crying women that were grateful to see them there. And there was lots of hope and inspiration. I personally did 107 kilometers, burnt myself like a lobster because the energy when you're marching, like if he's going through your community, him and the team, like it's intimidating when you're talking about military guys marching. We think it's like left, right, left, right, left, right. And like, we're going to like rucksacks on and pass out and need like 5 gallons of water. No, the guys are great. You can put your earbuds in and you can have a little dodge and you can say hi to everyone, and people stop all over the road. They bring gifts and water and juice and letters and pictures. And, it really is. It's like a marching Ottawa convoy, but not. I shouldn't say that because they're not the same and they're not associated, but I was in Ottawa and I felt like I had post-traumatic stress disorder when I came home because I was like, where's my freedom gone? Everybody has face nappies on. But when you're on that highway with them, it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I could see that. And it's good to hear that the guys are really representing out there, and kind of smashing some of those stereotypes, I guess, about veterans. I get that a lot. Like when people kind of come into our circles, it's not really what they're expecting. Maybe we're a little rough around the edges, but we're quite welcoming, and it's a very diverse environment. We're often painted as just being a bunch of white guys and stuff. But the irony is that the military is probably the greatest engine for integration in the country here. And I was wondering, did many of the locals get out and march with you guys too? Did they travel with you for a bit?
Oh yeah, like there's been some that have followed them right from St. John's all the way to Port of Basque. I just dropped off a few things down to a gentleman that's leaving tomorrow from St. John's to drive all the way across the island just to see them off. Nice. So people have marched. Most people will do like a leg or two between 6 and 12 kilometers just for the sake of saying that, that they did it and they participated.
Right.
There was this guy, I think he was 82 years old. And it was like a super long leg. So they're either could be anywhere from 4 kilometers to 6.5. And he even brought his rucksack. This 82-year-old veteran brought his rucksack and he marched and never even knocked the wind out of his sails, Nice. And it was just, it was awesome.
They don't make him like that anymore, huh?
No, and he was giving her, he had his backpack on. He was ready to go. He was no nonsense. He's bring it on. I'm here for my country still. I might be old, but I'm young inside. Right.
And I think every veteran hopes we kind of round things out like that, So we have some other news here that Canada Marches wanted us to introduce to you guys. So this is an initiative that's up on the website right now. I just kind of have it blown up so you guys can see a little better. I'll just go ahead and read this to you. This is the DND and CAF ombudsman, and coming from Warrant Officer James Topp, going to Gary Lick, the DND and CAF ombudsman. It says, "Dear Sir, I, Warrant Officer James Topp, am contacting your office to address urgent areas of concern surrounding the CDS directive for COVID-19 vaccination. This policy has negatively impacted thousands of CAF members, causing an increasing number of highly trained, dedicated members to abandon their careers for the following reasons. Members who will not participate by way of non-disclosure of vaccination status and or remaining unvaccinated face institutional discrimination and abuse, causing those members incalculable physical or psychological stress and trauma. B. Members are subjected to administrative measures that have led to 5F releases, resulting in widespread loss of faith in the chain of command at all levels of the organization. And C. Members have denied the right to, have been denied the right to work by being placed on leave or leave without pay. Furthermore, members released under item 5F have been denied completion of the requisite time period so they could be granted their pensions. Defense Minister Anita Anand announced the CAF must recruit more troops amid heightened global uncertainty. However, both the DND and CAF persist in the implementation of a policy that is causing widespread organizational harm. The DND reported that hundreds of our members have been released and over 1,200 are currently facing administrative measures, which will likely lead to their release as well. Millions of dollars worth of taxpayer money are being wasted due to losses in trained personnel who have been released as a consequence of this policy. Highly trained members in occupations, including pilots, special operations, and other highly technical fields, have also been lost to the organization. Those who sought an accommodation were denied, and some chose voluntary release to avoid their employment record being tainted by the item 5F, unsuitable for further service. Just for anybody who's not tracking out there, the 5F is that's the item that Russell Williams was released under. That's being fired, and it's about as harsh a measure as they can offer in terms of the administrative tool bag. 5F, unsuitable for further service. This is considered by many to be a dishonorable discharge and is an insult to those who have had exemplary careers. As a form of peaceful protest against these policies, I have marched 4,293 kilometers on foot from Terry Fox Memorial in Vancouver, BC, to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Ottawa, Ontario. As of July 18, 2022, I have resumed this march beginning at Signal Hill in St. John's, Newfoundland, and will continue advancing west until I reach southern Ontario. Canada Marches continues to raise awareness and advocate for those members of the CAF who are still suffering from the effects of the CDS directive regarding vaccination. Accordingly, these members objected to the policy, which resulted in the destruction of their careers. Considering the disastrous impacts on our personnel, it is recommended that the DND and CAF repeal all related 5F releases and to permit these members to rejoin. This recommendation is also extended to the 100 plus members who voluntarily release under item 4C or offer them an immediate annuity along with access to medical and dental benefits. I would like to extend an invitation to you and members of your office to speak with me on these matters in order to launch an investigation into the harms that have been caused since the introduction of this policy. Our cooperation in finding a resolution to these matters will restore confidence in the Canadian population and CAF members that our institutions still serve their interests. Respectfully, James Topp, CD2. Well, now, that's from July 20th, 2022. So that's from James, like I said, to the Chief of Defense Staff, Welk Weiner, the man who accepted the job by agreeing to essentially destroy the military or oversee its destruction. We got a reply here as well. Did you want to comment on anything there, Dana, before I move on?
No, you can keep going.
Okay, all right. So here we have from the Ombudsman of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces. This is the response from the Ombudsman that we got on 8 August. So, or at least it's dated 8 August. It says, Dear Warrant Officer Topp, thank you for contacting the Office of the Ombudsman for the Department of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces about your concerns with the CDS directive on the CAF COVID-19 vaccination. Our office serves as a sounding board, mediator, and investigator, and reporter on matters related to the DND CAF. The office does not evaluate government-wide policies, medical matters, or public health advice. We can deal with issues related to the DND-CAF and whether they applied measures and policies fairly in individual circumstances. You or any member of the defense community can contact us with an individual concern should you feel that you have been treated unfairly in the application of policy or directive. All complaints are reviewed to determine if the issue falls within our mandate and the most appropriate method to resolve an issue. The federal government recently suspended the vaccine requirement for all public servants, and we understand that the CAF is currently assessing the need for an amendment to the CDS directive on CAF COVID-19 vaccination. The global picture is continuously evolving, and the individual complaints reviewed by my office to date do not lead me to believe that it would be useful to meet at this time. Sincerely, Gregory A. Litch, Ombudsman. So in not so many words, that's kind of, it sounds like he's blowing him off. But well, my immediate thoughts, because this, I was an assisting member, a qualified assisting member for the grievance process, and workplace relations advisor for like the harassment policy and you know, a bunch of stuff like that. So I'm kind of used to locking horns with the higher ups. And yeah, the ombudsman's pretty toothless. It always has been. And I think the last 3 ombudsmen in a row all resigned, saying, you know, the chain of command can't police itself. And the military's chain of command has really managed to avoid any real accountability, you know, going all the way back to Somalia. And it seems to me that it was always the case that all we really had to do was reform the ombudsman's office into like an inspector general, kind of like they have down in the United States there, where you know, they'll field all complaints related to the chain of command and report directly to Parliament. Because what we have right now in the Canadian Armed Forces is, you know, the people who are making the decisions to fire you for exercising your bodily autonomy are also the people to whom you submit your complaint, you know, to grieve that decision. And there are protocols in place to eliminate conflicts of interest and stuff like that. Not like anybody reads the policy. I've seen decision letters that were written before disclosure packages were provided, which is putting the cart before the horse, to say the least. And the only way anybody could do that is if they didn't even read the most introductory policy on the process. So there's a lot of problems with the chain of command. Lack of accountability is kind of at the root, and you have to provide that independence, I think, because we all know already that even when they went to, when the ombudsman went to the minister, that was the Minister of Stolen Valor there, Harjit Sajjan, and they went to him with the complaints about General Vance early on, and you know, he buried it. It didn't go anywhere because you know, that's his ministry, and he doesn't want to look bad. So just go ahead and sweep out that sexual misconduct under the rug. So that's kind of the issue, you know, is there's a political barrier there with the minister, with having everybody reporting directly to the minister instead of reporting directly to Parliament. And you know, the ombudsman doesn't have any teeth. And the whole process is fraught with conflicts of interest because of the need to file these complaints to the chain of command. But I digress. That's my rant on these processes for now. And what I'll say is what he's saying in this letter to me that he's not saying, like what's kind of between the lines, is what you're asking him to do is not in his mandate. So maybe we could tailor this up a little bit and get it more toward his mandate. You know, all it would take really would be somebody who is individually affected by this policy, because I think that's what I'm getting out of the, I haven't looked at his mandate letter, obviously, but that's what I'm getting. Our office serves as a sounding board, mediator, investigator, and reporter on matters related to DND-CAF. And really all they do is advise. You engage with them and they're going to say, okay, but what you need to do is you need to submit this form and go to this website and you need to do all these things. And if the chain of command is not playing ball, then they'll be like, okay, they'll talk to the chain of command and say, you're supposed to follow the policy. And the chain of command will be like, well, I'm in charge and, I do what I want. It never really goes anywhere. But there is a kind of a game you can play, when you start diving into their mandates and a lot of the policies that they're governed by. So I'd say all is not lost there. But what's the view on the ground over there, Dana? Do you have any?
I have lots to say about this ombudsman dude.
Okay.
He occupies a chair to make decisions, but doesn't actually make decisions. So number one, what a waste of tax-paying dollars.
100%.
Number two, to me, listening to that letter as a civilian, it's a complete avoidance of actually answering the question. Because if he was answering the question, he would give him the proper chain of command in which we should direct those questions, right? From a civilian point of view, I'm deeply concerned about this actually still being in place for our Canadian Armed Forces, number one, with the state of the world that we are in regards to potential wars and things like that. And number two, the CDC now has officially come out and said, you cannot discriminate. You should not discriminate against anybody. The unvaccinated and the vaccinated are exactly the same, and pretty much game over. So what are we doing here? Do we have a Canadian defense system or somebody that's making proper decisions, or are we simply just ticking the box, doing our job, and letting the extortion fall down from the Trudeau puppetville up in the Liberal government in Ottawa? So I really like this idea of sending letters to the ombudsman. I can never pronounce it, but that's okay. Because I think working inside the system, like being the person that loses the job, is one thing. They have still a little bit of power, like to mess with your pensions and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But what about all the families out there that are sat down wondering, like, how can I make a difference? Like, this stuff is concerning me. I'm worried about my country. I'm worried about our defense. These mandates should all be gone now. It's still affecting us long past the time. So on the CanadianMarches.ca website, there's also a sample letter for anybody that's wordy, and wants to be very professional about it. But, if you're a simple person like myself, you can simply send a letter to the address that's listed there, and you can say, hey, this doesn't impress me. Why is our government still penalizing our first line of defense? How does that affect morale? How does that affect our country? You don't necessarily need to have this big, long out, drawn out written letter, or even to be overly knowledgeable. You could just simply say, I'm concerned. But that's a big call to action to our country, because like me, as we're going further along in this, pandemic thing that we're going through, more people are starting to realize that something isn't quite right. Can't exactly fix it from the top down because he's in Costa Rica, and not checking his emails from people like me in Newfoundland. So what we have to do is we have to start working and start picking the low-bearing fruit and shake the tree, because they will fold the pressure. Accountability and speaking the truth is important, and every voice matters. We have 37 million people in this country. If 1/3 of the population wrote this letter or just took some form of action, this would all be over, and we can watch and go like, oh my goodness, what's happening to the armed forces? It's no good unless we start to take some action. Get out there and march. Go meet James and the team as they're going across. If you need a little bit more information on how to do this, send an email. We have to do something, because nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves, and we can't save ourselves without saving our military. What do we do without them? What do we do without our military?
Right. Like, what happens then? We're pretty comfortable as Canadians. I think of us as something like the nation state equivalent of the manatee. We're kind of like, we have a lot of natural resources. We're very big and large, and we don't really have any natural enemies. And we like to go to freshwater rivers in Florida during the winter months. So there's a kind of complacency that comes along with just being so well protected by our geography and having such good, strong allies to the south of us. The thing is that,
They're falling apart.
They're falling apart too. So
They're falling apart too.
yeah, if anything, they're probably headed for civil war. I just don't see the polarization, coming to an end in time. I guess, no, that sounds pretty dismal. But my understanding right now, what I'm hearing, just in some of the darker corners, I guess, is that Trump still has an ace up his sleeve, and he just filed a civil suit against the whole Clinton cabal for racketeering. So. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I think
his own racketeering charge is coming too.
Well,
I'm excited about those.
Well, we'll see.
Hopefully,
this is like impeachment 3 now. So my money's on Trump.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. We're done. Okay. So we have James' response here, and I'm glad he's not letting this guy off easy, because I wouldn't. I think everybody kind of gets that, but here we go. So again, this is to Gary Lick. That's the DND CAF ombudsman, and this is coming from Warrant Officer James Topp, and it says, "Dear Sir, thank you for your response. My understanding is that the CDS directive on COVID vaccination is a CAF-wide policy that has not only negatively impacted me, but also thousands of other reservists and regular force members. In the context of this discussion, I do not believe this is a medical matter or a public health concern. My non-participation in the CDS directive has the net result of a 5F release. I object to policy because I feel it is morally, ethically, and legally wrong to compel an individual through threat of administrative action to participate in the rollout of an experimental product such as the COVID-19 vaccine. This policy has resulted in numerous 5F releases and the discriminatory treatment of members choosing not to receive the vaccine for COVID-19. Further, there is evidence that long-term adverse events from the product have affected numerous members. In the past, your office has dealt with housing issues, which is also a CAF-wide policy. The current policy has affected individuals and their families. It is my belief that the Canadian public is aware of the extent of the damage done to the individual, the families, and the organization as a whole. I believe they, as citizens, taxpayers, and voters, have a role to play in this issue and will help us find a just and fair resolution to the matter. I continue to believe that it would be useful for us to meet, or possibly a federal member of parliament who can act on my behalf. This would go far in demonstrating to the Canadian people and our members that we acknowledge there's a problem and we're working together to fix it." So yeah, that's a pretty bang-on response. I like that he threw in the bit about the housing policy, because he's right. I mean, that is a CAF-wide policy that they took on at the highest levels, because basically what they do is, if the market for housing goes up, so does your rent in the military housing. But the PLD, like the posted living differential that they give you for living in high cost areas, they only reassess that like every 5 years. So yeah, they'll up your rent for like 5 years in a row before anybody even looks at whether there's been an increase to your cost of living. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he's holding his feet to the fire here, because that's a pretty obvious inconsistency. So why would he act on behalf of, why would he act on behalf of the force, I'll say, and in that instance when it comes to housing, but not when it comes to the vaccination policy? What do you think?
I think he's being paid not to say anything. Follow the money. Follow the money. Okay. Like, think about it. I mean, I'm a woman. I'm a single mom. I have a business. I'm smart. I do all kinds of crazy, fun, interesting things. Who's getting paid and who's not, right?
Yeah.
I filed extortion charges across this country when this all started, because extortion is very clear. At that time, it was very, very hard to prove intent. We know what the intent is now. Trudeau's sitting on 56 or 55 million vaccines that he still wants to continue to administer, right? The ombudsman, everybody's saying, I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job. I talked to a pharmacist today. He's totally awake. He's like, I'm just doing my job. Right. So that's what's happening here. So we have to continue to put pressure on and not accept it, and at some point in time, I don't think it would be a bad idea to call on the Canadian Armed Forces to like not show up to work for a day, the ones that are sitting in the local barracks and stuff across our country.
Hmm.
Like, we have to start standing up together, and everybody has to do their part. The citizens have to do their part. We have to make it simple for them to show, like, maybe we'll do a protest on the military bases.
Hmm.
There's a lot that we can do, but the biggest thing is, how do we get that call to action out to everybody? And that's what this podcast is all about, right? Is
Hmm.
teaching people how the ABCDs of what we need you to do to join the fight for our country. So
Yeah, and as far as like the protesting and stuff like that goes, we're always watching for people who have good plans and good ideas, that they're trying to advance like that. I wouldn't advise, like, at this point in time, that anybody should be protesting on a government installation just after what happened with the convoy. Just for now, because let's wait and see what happens with that
let's do
Emergency Measures Act Commission. What's that?
a letter protest. There we
I,
go.
I think this is a great idea. Like, everybody can do this, and you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home. You just got to drop a letter in the mail.
Oh, you've done it,
Um,
so your neighbor doesn't have to know. Your position.
exactly.
Exactly.
That's a great point. You can keep it private, and yeah, I mean, I've been saying this too. Like, what I was doing before even the trucker convoy was, I was going around with my hat, getting arrested with no mask, and just filing my human rights complaints, and they give me the same kind of form letters and blow me off. But I just keep appealing and keep going back, and if I have to keep getting arrested, I guess that'll be something too. But for now, I think I've done my part in that area, and maybe I can just write some letters, for now, for a little while. And I've been I've been advocating for, like, exactly this kind of thing. And we were just talking about what you were doing in Newfoundland there earlier today. I showed you video from when you served the notice of liability to the College of Physicians there.
Oh, but
Um,
corrupted stuff where I got
yeah.
messed with the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I had a few good clips from that and everything. I cut out kind of the parts that were getting a little scrambled and stuff. But there was definitely lots of good content there, and I thought that it was a really good example, that people could follow. And there was a
Mhm.
template out there online, so it's pretty simple. You just have to kind of print it off, and you brought one with you. So what are the odds? You want to walk us through that?
Oh my goodness. Of course I want to walk you through it. It's the most empowering piece that I've done so far. I've done all kinds of crazy stuff. I protested outside of vax clinics. I've done all kinds of crazy things. But what has been done by Stand United, originally I went to the College of Physicians quite some time ago with a letter from Dr. Hoff from British Columbia about the Physicians Code of Conduct. What they did at that point in time is it was about quarter to 3. They close at 4. They said that they were going to go back and get the letter to a doctor. They came out, turned off all the lights, and ran out the back of the building. So I was like, I need something even a little bit more powerful. So Stand United in British Columbia, you can find them at Stand United BC or Stand United on Facebook, came up with this really, 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 really well done notice of liability. And what I mean by being really well done, it's not generic. It does have specifics. It's been legally vetted. It's been physician vetted. And it also makes reference to the Supreme Court of Canada. If I could show you a little bit about it, it addresses the notice of liability. They can go to pharmacists, your employer, anybody in the medical field, and it has like proper links to all of the Pfizer data and Pfizer information, which is really, really helpful. We've done everything with QR codes, so it's like a 60-page document, but it's actually more like a 60,000-page document. So I went back with that to the College of Physicians, and once again, I was an hour early. Once again, they wouldn't let me have a doctor. And so I made her accountable. So what you do is you just print off this document. You don't have to make a big scene or make anybody feel uncomfortable. You could simply just say, hey, this is the most current information that we have on what's happening in our country with the criminal activities of our government, with what's happening with the physicians and with the lawyers. And then you would email into standunited.ca the information as to who has been served, so that we have a documentation that nobody should say that they're not aware about what's happening around the COVID-19 pandemic. But I will tell you an interesting thing that happened with me today with this document is I went to my own pharmacy, or one of the pharmacies that I go to get my prescriptions filled. And you don't have to be aggressive at all. You can be like, I'm really concerned about what's going on. Are you aware of, what's happening in our country with the mandates, what's happening in our country with, the vaccination of the children, that they've got a 99.995% chance of survival rate. And you'd be surprised at how many people are awake and that are open to taking this information. There's a lot of people out there that just don't have access to them for this information, or they're just doing what they were told. But it's a great way to hold people accountable, because accountability is where this starts. Right now and up until now, the majority of people have been getting pressure from their higher ups saying, oh, this is the message that we want to portray. Everybody needs to be vaccinated. These people are going to lose their jobs if they're not vaccinated, if they're not following what we're saying. And the people really, like we, the people, have not really been holding anybody accountable. So when you pass somebody a document like this that says, hey, I know that you know this stuff, and that if anything happens to a loved one of mine, you cannot say that you didn't have that information. So this is blowing up in Western Canada. For all the veterans that are watching, because I know we're on V4F, if you want to do a sweet lady in Newfoundland a favor and deliver some of these on my behalf, because I can't be everywhere at the same time, it would be greatly appreciated.
We got a question there from the comments. Can I print one from standunited.ca?
Absolutely. I will give Jeff the link also. Jeff will pop the link up there in the comment section when he gets a minute. It's an incredible document. You don't even need to print it off in color. It is in color. But even for your own information, like for anybody out there that is not fully versed as to, some of the things that are happening in the court system, the Pfizer data, the COVID Care Alliance, what's happening with the RCMP, like it's the most I call it the little Bible of COVID. It's the little COVID Bible, and all of the little dark, dirty secrets of our government is in here too. So if anything, it's good for a coffee read and to help give you some mojo into taking that stand for your family, because that's what we need everybody to do now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you said earlier, it's not like anybody's come to save us. We got to do it ourselves, right? So this is a really great way, I think, to get the grassroots engaged. And right now, I think we're kind of in a holding pattern, just waiting for kind of the next big event. And I saw a few comments about let's see. Somebody threw something there. She says, agree, Jeff. I witnessed the Aboriginal people protest in Goose Bay, Labrador military base, and it was bad what the military did to those people. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm always just kind of expressing my concern for what's happening right now, because people are scrambling, powerful people are scrambling, and they're like a drowning man reaching for a chip bag. He'll just drag anybody down with him, anywhere near him. So when you see a drowning man reaching for a chip bag, you throw him a lifeline, but don't get too close. If we're talking about powerful people in these situations, and they're willing to invoke the Emergencies Act for bouncy castles in the street, as we saw, I think they're looking for that act of terrorism that they tried to make the convoy out to be. So they're looking for another scapegoat, another patsy, right?
Well, you got to outsmart them. That's all.
What's that?
We have to outsmart them. Look,
yeah.
if you tell the truth, what can they do with telling the truth?
Yeah.
The biggest pushback that we have is communication. We need to get people communicating, and we need to make people feel like heroes, right? So one small gesture can change the whole trajectory of this. Once all these little tiny pieces all come together, and there's like 75,000 emails in somebody's inbox, it matters. So, they're not going to get away with it. We're all going to win. Good always wins, Jeff.
Well, I'm going to reserve comment on that one. I'm a cynic, and I'm promoting a lot of cynicism around here. I wouldn't advise to be too optimistic these days, because now is not the time for like complacency, or to stay silent for that matter. So but this is I'm going to show the Stand United website here, and Drew's always correcting me and saying that I got to press F11. There we go. So here's the resources page. I just went to downloads and resources from their homepage, and you can see these downloadable documents here: the Pfizer report, and some other stuff here, and informed consent script. They have this informed consent initiative right now. It's a good awareness campaign, and informed consent package BC. So that's just for the province of BC. I think that they're based out of there, but they have one for Canada as well. Yeah, you've got adverse event reporting system, all kinds of great stuff here. So all the resources that you want to step into that ideological battle space and engage in the fight. So I think that there are a lot of groups out there that are heading in the right direction. C3 looks like they're, that's the way ahead for us, obviously, as an organization with V4F. And we're looking for other C3 organizations to engage with. And people are starting to put together all kinds of different packages like this. And I just want to remind everybody that these things are going to take time. I see there's one or two comments, or one or two trolls in the comments. I already booted somebody from Facebook. So Mike Lockman, yeah.
Oh my God, he's from Newfoundland. He's one of my Antifa friends. Hi,
Oh,
Mike.
okay. Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you for helping us increase our visibility in Newfoundland. Myself and James Topp and Canadian Marches really appreciate your support.
Yeah, it's pretty glorious. We're not going to put up with, like, I'll put my detractors up here all day, and just engage with them. I think it adds to the discourse sometimes, but if you're just like being ignorant, forget about it. And I thought I would leave us. Here's another thing that you were kind of promoting. 1 second. I was checking out your page there. Go check out Dana on Facebook, because she's always posting great stuff. Okay, so this was the Toronto Star just the other day, and I'm pretty sure this is still open, so go and check it out. It says, "Have your say. Do you support Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's use of the Emergencies Act during the Freedom Convoy?" Right now, it looks like the no's are at 84% and the yeses are at 15%. So there's a little sign of hope right there. To kind of round things out. So thanks for posting that for us, Dana. And before I sign off here, I think I'll throw back to you for the final word.
Okay, so the number one thing that we need to do is to speak the truth. Like, I've heard 25,000 reasons why people didn't take a vaccine. I'm allergic, or I want to hide underneath my couch. Let's talk about it like it really is. The vaccine isn't a one size fits all. People are being harmed by it. And when it comes to bodily autonomy, you should always have the right to make a decision, especially when one of the side effects are death. Am I right? So we have to stop bullshitting. Saying it's okay, or because, I don't want somebody to like me because I'm not going to speak because I don't want somebody to like me. Mm-hmm. Well, wouldn't it be much better that if you thought you could help save their life? You can't be a hero by being a coward. And this is coming from a woman that's 5'5" and 134 pounds. I'm not a coward. And I'm sure there's lots of big, tough, burly men that are watching, and much smarter people than myself. You have to start speaking the truth. I don't expect everybody to go out there and, run into the College of Physicians like I am and going, "Man, you really chat my ass enough with this bullshit." I expect you to just be honest and be truthful and educate the people that are close to you and protect the ones that you love. Protect the people you love. And it'll be like a virus in itself. If I tell my brother tells his wife, my wife tells his wife's family, and we start an infection of informed, knowledgeable, credible information that's going to be undeniable. And as those things are growing, we'll hit the lawyers, we'll hit the doctors, we'll hit those people that will then find the courage to go forward and make their voices heard. Because if I'm 5'5" and 135 pounds, I'm down here chirping like a maniac. I don't know what your problem is, because you guys are so much more than I ever could be. So start talking immediately.
Yeah, that's. I think we got a couple of good comments in about this already, but people are really saying that they love your passion. So I think you're going to be a very powerful ally for V4F, and we're really happy to have you on board. We're. I'm more optimistic now, I guess, than when it all started in Newfoundland, because it was all kind of doom and gloom, and I was thinking, oh God, I hope I don't have to deal with Antifa and Cape Breton and all this stuff. And but the thing is that what's happening out there at the grassroots and with regular people, it's not what it looks like online, right? So there's just a handful of trolls out there that are making an awful lot of noise, and it seems like most of the ones that you got to deal with are getting funding from anti-hate. Which is getting taxpayer money, right, to harass political dissidents online, apparently. So that's the state of affairs in Canada today. And if it weren't for courageous people standing up, like Dana's been doing, then who knows where we might be right now, right? And the more of us who kind of participate in this process and have our voices heard, even though it doesn't really look like it's doing anything, it's not going to produce an immediate result. But it's like eating the elephant one bite at a time. So anyway, there's a hell of a lot more of us than there are the elephant. So if everybody takes a little bite, then we'll get through this a lot quicker. So anyway, thanks a lot, Dana. I know you've had your fill of elephant, but we really appreciate what you do.
Really appreciate what you guys do too. Thank you very much for chiming in. Don't forget to print off your documents. Don't forget to speak your truth. And thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. And one more thing that I meant to comment on was about courage. You don't have to be like a big burly guy. I don't really think that's what courage is about. It's and my understanding of even the definition, like through administering the ethics program while I was in the forces, is courage is about punching up. Okay. And it's not that courageous people aren't afraid. Like a big burly guy dealing with an average person, he's not really afraid, right? So it doesn't really require courage to overpower somebody like that. But the little guy, on the other hand, standing up to him, that would require courage, right? So I really think that it's about punching up. Anybody can do it. In the situation right now, we're dealing with a nation state, kind of a rogue state that we have here in Canada. So it's a pretty terrifying prospect. But it's just going to take everybody. Just if we all engage and get involved, then we can move mountains. And it's just going to take time. It's not going to happen right away, but we're already well on our way. So with all of that said, stay frosty and stay safe out there, troops, and have yourselves a good night.